Welcome back to another episode of Midnight Mist. Do you want to say what we talked about last week's episode?
Sure. Last episode, we talked about the Amityville Horror.
So check that out. And in this week's episode, we will be talking about the Fear Street trilogy. So in this trilogy, there's 3 movies. Fear Street 1994, 1978, and 1666. Yes. So we're going to get started with the first movie.
1994. So it starts off with 2 towns, Shadyside, which is the poorest town, and Sunnyvale, which is the rich part of town.
Yes, as he said. Shadyside is where a bunch of murders happened over the decades, and Sunnyvale is like the rich side. So this movie starts off with multiple characters. We have Dina, Sam, Kate, Josh.
And Simon.
Oh my god, I can't forget Simon. Yes, so what happens is we start off that Dina and Sam were once girlfriends in the past while they were in high school, because they're only in high school still. But unfortunately, something happened between them, and they ended up breaking up with each other. And this left this left Dina very depressed because she truly loves Sam. And Sam ended up moving to Sunnyvale. Yeah. So we're going to skip a little bit, but in the beginning, the main character named Heather gets killed by her own best friend.
Boyfriend.
Oh my god,
they were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Wait,
Heather and
yes,
Ryan Torres.
Oh my god. I forgot they were boyfriend and girlfriend. I'm only thinking that they're just friends. Yes, Ryan Torres, and she ends up getting brutally murdered. Then we fast forward later, and Dina and her school are on the way to Sunnyvale for like
a vigil for her.
And Dina ends up seeing Sam with her new boyfriend, and unfortunately that makes her feel some type of way. Peter. So she ends up walking away from the vigil. Yeah. And then as she's looking through her old stuff that her and Sam shared, Sam ends up confronting her. Do you want to share what happened in that confrontation?
So Sam confronts her. She's like, oh, is this all my stuff? And Dina's like, yeah, because, we're not together anymore. And Sam is like, you know what? Don't blame me for wanting a good future. And Dina's like, oh, that's not your future, blah, blah, blah. And then a fight breaks out during the vigil because Sunnyvale, Sunnyvale,
relax.
There's something else because they think that the murders that happened in Shadyside are not coincidental. Yeah.
Yes.
And the people in Shadyside, they're like, oh, stop talking about my town and whatnot, and then they start fighting. Yes. So then they go home, or they're driving home.
On the bus.
And Kate is like, oh, we got to kill those people. They're getting on our nerves. And then we see Peter, which is Sam's new boyfriend, and Sam and their friends taunting them. And Dina takes a cooler and accidentally throws it on their car, causing them to crash and go into the woods.
Because the car is coming after them, throwing eggs at them. And then Dina's like, stop the bus, because she realized what she just caused. Right. So as that's happening, Sam is crawling out of the car, and she starts bleeding from her nose.
Right. Which happened to Dina when she was about to throw the
And
thing.
then she touches the ground, and then she starts getting visions of this woman yelling at her, saying something, but she doesn't understand it.
The woman says, it's you, and then the vision stops.
Yes. And then later on, in the hospital, Dina decides to visit her with her friends Kate and Simon, and
her brother Josh.
And then a fight breaks out between them.
Oh yeah.
Because there's still tension between them after all this, and they're yelling, and then all of a sudden, Sam's boyfriend gets stabbed in his chest.
Yeah.
And then Ryan Torres, who's now dead, is now known as a school mass killer, and that's who killed him. So then they run out of the hospital, and everyone's getting killed in the hospital. So this is the next murder in Shadyside. So then, you want to continue?
Sure. They go to the precinct where they're like, oh, Sheriff Good, you said you would help us if anything happens. Because, Sheriff Good has a history with this, and that's in later our next topic. They ask him for help, and he's like, oh, you guys are crazy, blah, blah, blah. And so Simon wanders off, leaving Kate and Josh talking and whatnot. So Simon runs off, and he encounters another girl who's sitting there singing on the ground, and he's like, oh, are you all right?
Yeah.
That's another killer named Ruby Lane.
Yes.
And she tries to kill him with her razors that she uses to cut herself and kill a bunch of her friends.
And then Dina ends up shooting Ruby Lane. So then we're going to do a big fast forward. So then they decide that possibly, because they find out we totally forgot about C. Berman. C. Berman was a survivor of these attacks by these murderers. So then they decide that if Sam were to die and come back, that this would all stop. Right. So they devise a plan that Sam would take pills.
Yeah.
And then they would drown her and then revive her with EpiPens. So they put the whole plan in place, and everything's going well until the monsters start attacking everyone else. So Dean and Sam are trying to hurry up because if they don't, they might die. So then Sam ends up, dying from the pills.
Right.
And then
no, she drowned her.
Well, first they put it in their system, and then Dina starts to drown her, and then Sam ends up drowning.
Right.
And she's fighting because that's what the body does, natural instinct. And then they try bringing her back with the EpiPens, but it seems like it's not working. Right. And she's not coming back. So then Dina starts doing CPR, and she resuscitates her. And then everything stops there. So then we're gonna fast forward to the end of this movie, and Dina and Sam are laying down together, and Dina hears the phone ringing.
Yeah, they're together.
And then Dina picks up the phone, and it's C. Berman telling her that it's not over.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And then she turns around, and Sam stabs her because Sam was hearing whispering, and she got possessed. So then they start fighting. Of course, Josh doesn't hear it. And then when Josh hears the noise, he takes off his headphones, goes upstairs, and Dina wraps Sam in the phone cable, and she's bleeding on the floor. And that's where the first movie ends.
So now our second topic, Fear Street Part 2, 1978, starts off with C. Berman, who has a bunch of alarms, is awakened by, or startled by a bunch of noise, like knocking, and people just, flashlights are being shined in her, window.
Yes.
And she's like, what is that? So she's like, let me check this out and whatnot. And then she checks it out, and it's Josh and Dina with Sam in the back of their trunk. And C. Berman's like, oh, you gotta get her out of there. And Dina's like, oh no, but that's my girlfriend. I love her and I can't leave her like that. She was like, oh, fine, bring her in the house.
So then she brings her in, they tie her up, and C. Berman then starts to tell the story. And we're going back to 1978 when she was a camper at Camp Nightwing. So during this time, in 1978, they were gonna do an event later that they called Color War. So it's Shady Side versus Sunnyvale. So they've been rivals for a long time.
A very long time.
So then as the event starts happening and it gets later and later, one of the counselors named Tommy starts acting weird.
And Nurse Lane
was the nurse there at the camp.
And she confronted Tommy actually, and she was like, oh, one way or another you're gonna die tonight. Like, this has to be done. And she tries to kill him. So Ziggy, who is the main character, poor thing, she gets treated like trash. Like, they're just so rude to her. They call her a witch and whatnot. Because that's who Sarah Fear is, the witch, who's causing all these curses and whatnot.
Yeah, so as the night goes on, Tommy ends up just going crazy, and he kills his first victim, which is one of the campers there. And unfortunately, they all find him, and then he's just going on a killing spree, killing, I think it's 2 counselors and a bunch of campers.
Yeah.
So then, what's her name? Ziggy, right?
Ziggy. There's Ziggy and Ziggy's sister Cindy.
Yeah, so Ziggy is with Nick Good, who is in 1994 the sheriff, and Tommy's trying to kill them. Yeah. And then she ends up apprehending him, and then that's when his character comes to life. So this bag goes on his head and it covers his face. And how do they kill him? I don't think, do they kill him?
So how this movie ends is that Ziggy's trying to fight for her life, running from him. Cindy is trapped underground with her friend Alice, and they actually Cindy hits him with a shovel, and she takes his head off, and that doesn't work because Ziggy bleeds on Sarah Fear's hand, and we'll explain that in a minute. And so now all the monsters are being resurrected, going after her. Yes, and Ziggy and C. Berman start running away, thinking that if they bury the hand, that everything will go away. So as they're running, the monsters are surrounding them on all sides. And unfortunately, Ziggy and Cindy both die. Yeah, Cindy tries to push her away, so then they think that they both died. But then Nick Good comes out of nowhere and starts doing CPR once again. And brings her back to life. So then Ziggy is talking to him saying, what happened here? And he's like, I don't know. Like, she's like, oh, it's the witch Seraphir. And she thought he was different. Turns out he is just like everybody else, because he's like, oh, I don't believe you, you're crazy. Get on my face. So she goes. And we find out that Ziggy is now Christine. Her name is Christine. That's how she got her name, C. Berman.
So then that's where that movie ends. So then we go on to our last and final movie, Fear Street 1666. So, what was I going to say? This starts with Dina, right?
Dina she unites body and hand, because that's how you stop the curse. And she bleeds on the hand, and her eyes just start going like, her eyes are crossing, and now she's in the body of Seraphir.
Back in 1666, so about 300 years ago. So then she goes through Seraphir's story. So back in those times, being homosexual was a sin, and Seraphir had feelings for Hannah Miller, but they had to hide it.
Pastor's daughter.
But they had to hide it. And during this time, weird things started happening in their town. So all the fruits were becoming rotten and this weird things. And Sarah's dog actually ends up being found in the well, like drowned.
Oh, Mary boy.
Yes, and then there's this one weirdo there that lives in that town who's saying that the devil is coming. So then we fast forward to a party they have where they eat these berries
stay in there the whole period.
Where they eat the berries, which makes them hallucinate.
Yeah.
That was technical difficulties.
Yes.
One of our stupid classmates decided to push his head through the hole.
Yes, that was technical difficulties. So they end up eating the berries and they go off together, and then they. How do we explain this?
Hannah and Dina start getting a little.
No, Hannah and Sarah.
Hannah and Sarah start getting a little.
So they hook up. Okay, we're just gonna say hook up.
Yeah, they hooked up.
And then they get caught.
Thomas.
And then Thomas ends up going to the church and it's saying that she was laying with the devil, which starts a whole witch hunt for them.
And then that's when the possessions start occurring, because Pastor Miller cuts his eyes out and a whole bunch of other kids out. Their eyes. Yeah, he cuts them out so they're all just dead. And
respect.
Thomas is like, oh, Sarah, it is all Sarah. Sarah has laid with the devil. What should we do with her? They want to hang her and Hannah.
So then Hera. So then Hannah gets caught, and then when Sarah tries to save her, she gets caught as well. So then, when Hannah's about to get hung from the tree, Sarah ends up sacrificing herself for her.
And before all this happened, her and Solomon Good.
Oh my God.
Yes.
What the was the So Sarah ends up finding out that Solomon was the reason why those kids got killed, and he's the originator of the curse.
The goods. It's all the goods. Nick Good, Solomon Good.
Yes, and she ends up losing her hand in the fight that they have in the tunnels.
He cuts her hand, and she has to rip her hand off. And
all right.
Never mind. Anyways.
So Sarah gets hung, and Hannah is crying.
Yeah.
Because she's just there. They leave her there. They don't even give her the respect of burying her. So then her friends come and they take her from the tree. They bury her.
Yeah. So wholesome.
And then let's just go back to 1994.
All the way to 1994. This
so
is
then
part 2
we're just gonna
that.
go through this pretty fast. So they make a plan to bring Nick Good in, lock all the monsters.
They're gonna
and kill
carry him.
But then when he comes and they start fighting, Dina ends up running into the tunnels. Nick goes behind her and he's trying to find her. When he eventually does find her, he knocks her down. But then she thinks quick on her feet. She takes
his hand,
puts on the thing and stabs him in the eye.
Yeah, and that blob makes him, get visions of death.
He's dead. Finally, the curse is over. All the monsters disappear.
Yes.
Then we're gonna fast forward to the end. Sorry, this guy. We're just gonna fast forward. So then at the end, you see the tunnels. And then someone grabs
a book with Seraphir and all her curses and whatnot,
and the movie ends.
Yes.
So thank you guys for watching today's episode. If you want to watch a series for yourself, go on Netflix.
Yes. Not sponsored by Netflix.
And in next week's episode, it will be our last episode, and we will have everyone. Simran and Imtas, who are off camera, will be joining us, and we will recap all of our podcasts from this whole year. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.